Danny Carter pressed his face against the cool metal wall of his dorm room and stared out at the swirling clouds below. The gas giant Kepler 442b looked like a giant marble made of orange and blue paint mixed together. 3 moons hung in the dark space around it like silver coins. It was beautiful. But it still didn't feel like home. The 17-year-old human had been at the Galactic Academy for 3 months now. Every morning he woke up in his small room on the space station and remembered he was millions of miles away. From Earth, he was the first human student ever accepted to the Academy. His teachers back at Jefferson High School in Ohio had called it the chance of a lifetime. His parents had cried when they said goodbye at the spaceport. Now Danny wondered, if he had made a huge mistake, the Academy was nothing like his high school back home. The building was made of some kind of crystal that changed colors throughout the day. The hallways were so wide that 3 school buses could drive through them side by side. Strange plants from different worlds grew in hanging gardens that floated in the air without any support he could see, but the hardest part wasn't the weird building, the artificial gravity that made him feel slightly dizzy all the time. It was the other students. Danny walked to his first class of the day, Advanced Quantum Mechanics. Professor Yantul, who looked like a tall gray tree with too many arms, was already writing equations on a board that glowed bright blue. The math. Symbols hurt Danny's eyes to look at. He took his usual seat in the back row. Around him sat the smartest young beings from across the galaxy. There was Zeknine, a Vorthok, who looked like a silver robot with a glass head filled with swirling blue. Liquid Zeknine could solve math problems faster than Danny could read them. The Vorthok student never looked at Danny directly. Danny often heard the quiet beeping sounds that meant Zeknine was talking to other Vorthok students about him. 2 seats over sat Cora, a Zalani warrior student who stood 7 feet tall and had purple skin covered in natural armor plates. Her people were known throughout the galaxy as the greatest fighters who had ever lived. Cora could lift Danny over her head with one hand. She did this once during physical training to prove a point about human weakness. Behind Danny sat the Moralin twins, Lynn and Laura. They looked almost human except for their large silver eyes that never seemed to blink. The Moralins could read minds and share thoughts with each other. Sometimes Danny caught them staring at him with puzzled expressions, as if they were trying to figure out how his brain worked. Professor Yantul began the lesson about something called quantum entanglement bridges. Danny tried to follow along, but the math was far beyond anything he had learned on Earth. He scribbled notes in his tablet, knowing he would spend hours that night trying to understand what it all meant. Young Carter, Professor Yantul's voice, boomed across the classroom. Perhaps you can explain how humans would approach this calculation. Danny felt his face turn red. 20 pairs of alien eyes turned to stare at him. I'm not sure, Professor. We don't really have quantum entanglement bridges on Earth yet. Few students made sounds that Danny had learned meant they were laughing at him. Zeknine's head liquid swirled faster, which meant the Vorthok found something amusing. Indeed, Professor Yantul said, his tone suggesting that Earth's lack of advanced technology was no surprise. Perhaps you should focus more attention on your studies and less on whatever primitive activities occupy human minds. The class ended with Danny feeling smaller than ever. He gathered his things and headed to the cafeteria for lunch. The food was nothing like Earth food. Everything was either too sweet, too salty, or had a texture that reminded him of rubber. He missed his mom's cooking so much it made his stomach hurt. Danny found an empty table near the large windows that showed the view of space. He was halfway through something that tasted like chocolate-flavored cardboard when Zeknine approached his table. The Vorthok never ate with other students, preferring to recharge at special power stations. "Human Carter," Zeknine said in his electronic voice. "You appear to be struggling with basic concepts that most Academy students master in their youth." "Thanks for pointing that out," Danny muttered, not looking up from his food. "It is curious," Zeknine continued, "that your species was granted admission to this academy. What exactly do humans excel at, if not mathematics, combat, or mental discipline?" Before Danny could answer, Cora appeared at the table. The purple-skinned warrior towered over both of them. "Perhaps humans are skilled at running away from challenges," she said with what might have been a smile. It would explain their survival strategy. The Moralin twins glided over to join the conversation. Lynn spoke first. We have tried to understand human thought patterns, but your minds are chaotic. You think about many unrelated things at once. It is most inefficient, Lara added. How do you accomplish anything with such scattered mental energy? Danny felt anger building in his chest. He was tired of being the Academy's favorite target for jokes and insults. Look, I know I'm not as smart as you guys at this quantum stuff, and I can't lift heavy things or read minds, but that doesn't mean humans are worthless. Then enlighten us, Zek9 said, his liquid brain swirling with what Danny now recognized as curiosity mixed with mockery. What activities do humans pursue that demonstrate your species' capabilities? The cafeteria had grown quiet around them. Other students from various species had stopped their conversations to listen. Danny realized this was his chance to defend not just himself, but all of humanity. Well, Danny said, trying to think of something impressive, I need to get home. This weekend for practice, the aliens exchanged glances. Professor Yantul, who had been eating at the faculty table, stood up and walked over. Practice. What manner of training do humans require? Danny shifted in his seat. Football practice. Coach says we have a real shot at making it to state championships this year if we keep working hard. The silence that followed was so complete that Danny could hear the soft humming of the space station's life support systems. Every alien in the cafeteria was staring at him with expressions he couldn't read. And after football season ends, baseball season starts up, Danny continued, not sure why everyone had gone so quiet. Plus, I promised my little sister Kate I'd help her with her science fair project. She wants to make one of those baking soda volcanoes. The silence stretched on. Danny looked around at the frozen faces surrounding him and wondered what he had said wrong. All he had done was mention his normal after-school plans. Why did everyone look like he had just announced something terrible? He had no idea that his simple, honest answer had just changed everything. Professor Yantul was the first to break the strange silence that had fallen over the cafeteria. The tall, tree-like being moved closer to Danny's table, his multiple arms swaying as he walked. His voice carried the tone he usually used when explaining something to younger students. Young Carter, he said slowly, when you speak of football practice, are you referring to some form of mathematical exercise involving spherical calculations? Danny blinked in confusion. No, sir, it's just a game. Two teams trying. To get the ball into the end zone? Zek9's liquid brain began spinning faster inside his glass head. The blue swirls moved in tight circles as he processed this information. A game? You mean a simulation designed to test strategic thinking capabilities? Well, I guess there's strategy involved, Danny said, still not understanding why everyone seems so interested. Coach draws up plays and we have to memorize them. But it's mostly just fun. The word fun seemed to hit the aliens like a physical blow. Several students took a step backward. Cora's purple armor plates shifted slightly, which Danny had learned meant she was either confused or preparing for a fight. Fun, Cora repeated, as if the word tasted strange in her mouth. You engage in combat simulation for ... enjoyment? It's not really combat, Danny tried to explain. I mean, yeah, we tackle each other and there's blocking and stuff, but nobody's trying to actually hurt anyone. The point is to work together as a team and try to win the game. Lynn and Lara, the Moralin twins, moved closer. Their large silver eyes fixed on Danny's face as they tried to read his thoughts. Lynn spoke first, her voice carrying a note of disbelief. Are sensing images from your mind? She said. Large gatherings of humans making loud noises while watching this ... game? Yeah, football games are pretty popular back home, Danny said, warming up to the subject. Our homecoming game last year had over 10,000 people in the stands. The whole town basically shuts down on Friday nights during football season. Lara's silver eyes widened. 10,000 beings gathered to observe this activity that serves no purpose beyond enjoyment. Sure, my dad never misses a game. My mom brings homemade cookies for the whole team. Even my little brother Pete comes, though he mostly just plays. With his friends under the bleachers, Professor Yantul's many arms began moving in what Danny recognized as the gesture the Threnody used when they were deeply troubled. And this baseball you mentioned? Is this another form of recreational? Combat. Danny almost laughed, but caught himself when he saw how serious everyone looked. No, baseball's totally different. You hit a ball with a bat and try to run around the bases before the other team can get you out. It's actually pretty relaxing compared to football. Relaxing? Zeknin's electronic voice went up and pitched. You engage in multiple forms of physical activity for the purpose of relaxation? Well, it's not just about relaxing. It's about being part of the team, you know? Working together, supporting each other. The competition is fun too. There's nothing like the feeling when you hit a home run or make a great catch. The aliens exchanged looks through their various forms of communication. Danny could hear the soft beeping sounds that meant the Vorthok were talking to each other. Korra's armor plates were shifting more rapidly now. The Moralen twins had gone completely still, which usually meant they were having a deep mental conversation. A new voice joined the conversation. It belonged to Vexprim, a senior Vorthok student who rarely spoke to underclassmen.
Human Carter.
You mentioned assistance with a sibling's educational project. It's volcano creation. Is it a geological research initiative? Danny shook his head. Not really research. It's for Kate's science fair at her elementary school. She's 8. All the kids make projects to show what they've learned. Kate wants to make a volcano that erupts using baking soda and vinegar. 8-year-old human is conducting advanced geological experiments, Professor Yantul asked, his voice filled with what might have been alarm. It's not really advanced, Danny said, confused by the professor's reaction. It's just a fun way to learn about volcanoes. Kate loves science. Last month, she grew crystals for a different project. Before that, she made a solar system model out of foam balls. The silence returned, heavier than before. Danny looked around at the faces surrounding him. Every alien in the cafeteria was staring at him with expressions he had never seen before. It wasn't mockery or dismissal like usual. It was something else entirely. Your juvenile sibling engages in multiple scientific investigations simultaneously, while also participating in recreational activities? Vexprim asked. Yeah, Kate's really busy. She takes dance lessons twice a week. She's in the school choir, and she plays soccer in the spring. Plus, she's learning to play piano, and she volunteers at the animal shelter with my mom on weekends. Several alien students made sounds that Danny didn't recognize. Professor Yantul's arms were moving so rapidly now that they looked like they were vibrating. And your parents? The professor asked carefully. What activities do they pursue? Danny shrugged. Normal stuff, I guess. Dad works as a civil engineer, but he also coaches Pete's Little League team and helps out with the neighborhood watch program. Mom works part-time at the library and runs the book club. She also volunteers at the animal shelter and helps organize the annual charity drive for the food bank. The cafeteria had become so quiet that Danny could hear his own heartbeat. Even the background humming of the space station seemed to have stopped. He looked around at the frozen faces of his classmates and professors. Did I say something wrong? He asked. Nobody answered him. They all just kept staring, as if he had revealed something that had shaken their understanding of the universe itself. Danny had no idea that his simple description of normal, human life had just introduced the galaxy to a concept that none of them had ever encountered before, in all their advanced civilizations, with all their technology and knowledge. Not one of the alien species had ever developed. The idea of doing multiple things simply because they wanted to, the revelation was just beginning to sink in, and it would change everything. That evening, Danny sat in his dorm room, staring at his communication device. He had 3 hours of homework to finish, but he missed his family so much that his chest hurt. The strange reaction from his classmates at lunch had left him feeling more alone than ever. He pressed the button to call home. The device hummed for a few seconds before the holographic image of his family's living room appeared in front of him. The familiar sight of the old brown couch and his mom's flower paintings on the wall made his eyes water. Danny. Just little. Sister Kate jumped into view, her blonde hair bouncing as she waved at the camera. Guess what? I got all the stuff for my volcano project. Behind her, Danny could see his mom Carol cooking dinner in the kitchen, while his 10-year-old brother Pete sat at the dining room table with homework spread everywhere. His dad Jim was just walking through the front door, still wearing his work clothes and carrying his engineer's briefcase. Hey, buddy, his dad said, loosening his tie as he walked over to the camera. How's space treating you? It's okay, Danny said, not wanting to worry them. How was work? Busy day? We're designing a new bridge over Miller's Creek. Should make The morning commute easier for everyone in town. Jim sat down heavily in his favorite chair. But enough about my day. Tell us what you've been learning up there. Before Danny could answer, Kate pushed her face close to the camera. Danny, look. At this, she held up a small plastic volcano and a box of baking soda. Mrs. Peterson helped me pick out the perfect colors for the lava. It's going to be so cool when it erupts. That's awesome, Kate, Danny said, smiling for the first time all day. Did you read about how real volcanoes work? Oh, yes. Kate's eyes lit up. I got 3 books from the library and watched 2 documentaries. Did you know that some volcanoes can sleep for hundreds of years before they wake up? The lava is actually melted rock that's so hot it glows. From the kitchen, Carol called out, Kate, come help me set the table. Pete, put your math homework away. Dinner's almost ready. In a minute, Mom, Kate called back. Danny, after the science fair, I'm going to start my new dance routine. Miss Sandra is teaching us a dance from Brazil. It has lots of spinning. Pete looked up from his homework and waved at the camera. Hey, Danny, math is so easy here. I finished all my problems in like 10 minutes. Can you help me build that rocket we talked about when you get home? Sure thing, little man, Danny said. How's soccer going? Great. Coach Martinez says I might make the travel team next year. Oh, and Jake's older brother is teaching me how to skateboard after practice. Danny's mom appeared in the frame, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. How are you eating up there, honey? Are you getting enough vegetables? The food's different, Danny said. I miss your cooking. When you come home for winter break, I'll make all your favorites. Your father's been practicing his barbecue technique for your return? Jim laughed from his chair. Speaking of which, I promised Coach Williams I'd help him organize the equipment for next season. New kids keep signing up for the team. You might need to start a junior varsity squad. Dad also volunteered to help build the new playground at Kate's school, Carol added. The whole neighborhood is pitching in. Mrs. Rodriguez is organizing the food for the volunteers, and Mr. Thompson is donating the lumber from his hardware store. The conversation was interrupted by a knock at Danny's door. Come in, he called. To his surprise, Professor Yantol entered, followed by several of Danny's classmates. Zeknine Cora and the Moralin twins filed into the small room. Had visitors before? We apologize for the intrusion, Professor Yantol said formally. However, the Academy's Cultural Studies Department has requested permission to observe human-family interactions. For research purposes, Danny looked uncertainly at his family's image. Is that okay with you guys? Of course, Carol said brightly. How wonderful that Danny's making friends. Hello, everyone. Kate waved enthusiastically at the aliens. Wow, you all look so different. Are you really from other planets? The aliens stood frozen as Kate's innocent question hung in the air.
Ellie?
Zeknine's electronic voice responded. Yes, young human. We represent various species from across the galaxy. That's so cool. Kate bounced on her toes. Danny, your friends can watch me test my volcano if they want. I'm going to make it erupt right now. She ran off to get her materials. While the aliens watched in bewilderment, Pete looked up from his homework again. Danny, is that a robot? How does his brain work? Pete, don't be rude, Carol scolded gently. I'm sure your brother's classmates have many interesting stories to share. Jim stood up and walked closer to the camera. So you're all studying with Danny? What subjects are you focusing on? I specialize in computational analysis and resource optimization, Zeknine replied stiffly. Combat strategy and tactical operations, Cora added. Mental discipline and consciousness studies, Lynn said. That sounds very focused, Jim said approvingly. Danny's always been more of a generalist, jack of all trades, master of none, as they say. Kate returned with her volcano project, chattering excitedly as she mixed the baking soda and vinegar. The foam erupted from the plastic mountain, and she clapped her hands in delight. Isn't that amazing? She said to the watching aliens. After this, I'm going to work on my dance routine, then help Mom with the animal shelter newsletter, then practice piano. Tomorrow I have soccer practice and choir rehearsal. The aliens exchanged glances. Lynn spoke carefully. Young human Kate, how do you accomplish so many different activities? Kate looked puzzled by the question. What do you mean? Don't you do lots of different things too? We focus our efforts on our primary specializations, Lara explained. That sounds boring, Kate said with 8-year-old honesty. I like trying new things. Last week I learned how to knit from Grandma, and next week I'm going to help Dad build a birdhouse. Carol appeared behind Kate, speaking of which we should probably let Danny get back to his studies. But it was lovely meeting all of you. Danny, don't forget that Jake called earlier. Something about strategy for the big game next week.
Right.
I need to call him back, Danny said. Coach wants us to practice the new play he designed. After the call ended, the room fell silent. The aliens stood motionless, processing what they had witnessed. Professor Yantoul's many arms hung limply. At his sides, Professor, Danny said hesitantly, "Is everything all right?"
Oh.
"You all look like you've seen a ghost." Professor Yantoul turned his ancient eyes toward Danny. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made Danny's skin crawl. "Young Carter," he said slowly, "we believe we have made a terrible miscalculation about your species." Danny had no idea what that meant, but something in the professor's tone told him that his simple family conversation had just changed everything in ways he couldn't possibly understand. Professor Yantoul called an emergency meeting at midnight. The Academy's main conference room had never been used so late at night, but sleep was impossible for any of the faculty who had witnessed Danny's family call. The room's crystal walls glowed with a soft blue light as professors from every major species gathered around the oval table. "What we observed tonight changes everything," Professor Yantoul began, his voice echoing in the large chamber. "We must contact the Galactic Council immediately." Dr. Kethfax, the head of military studies and a decorated Zilani warrior, slammed her armored fist on the table. "You're overreacting, Yantoul. So the humans do many small activities? This proves nothing about their capabilities? Small activities?" Professor Yantoul's arms waved frantically. "That child mentioned 6 different pursuits she engages in regularly. 6. And she spoke of them as if they were normal." Professor Mindweaver Zarian, the senior Moralin on staff, closed his silver eyes in concentration. "I have spent the evening analyzing the thought patterns we observed. The human family's minds were chaotic beyond anything in our databases. They think about dozens of unrelated subjects simultaneously. Chaotic thinking leads to poor decision-making," Dr. Kethfox argued. "Any military strategist knows that focus is the key to victory." Unless Professor Yantoul said quietly, "What we perceive as chaos is actually a form of mental processing we don't understand." The room fell silent. In the corner, a junior professor, named Quinzette, was rapidly accessing the Academy's database. His Vorthok computational systems were working at maximum capacity, blue liquid swirling frantically in his glass head. "Professors," Quinzette said, his electronic voice carrying a note of alarm, "I have been analyzing human civilization data. The implications are ... disturbing." He activated the room's holographic display. Images of Earth appeared in the air above. The table, cities, sports stadiums, concert halls, museums, schools, and thousands of other human structures rotated slowly in the blue light. "Humans have created over 8,000 different sports and games," Quinzette reported. "They have millions of what they call hobby groups, dedicated to activities that serve no survival purpose. Art, music, literature, crafts, collecting objects. Studying subjects that have no practical application." Dr. Kethfox leaned forward. "Show me their military capabilities." "That's the problem," Quinzette said. "Many of their recreational activities are more complex than our military training programs. They have combat sports that require split-second decision-making, strategic games that involve managing hundreds of variables, and physical challenges that push their bodies beyond normal limits." The hologram shifted to show humans playing various sports. Football players colliding at full speed. BASKETBALL. Players making impossible shots. Soccer players coordinating complex team movements. Tennis players reacting faster than the eye could follow. "They do this for fun," Quinzette continued. "Millions of humans participate in these activities while maintaining careers, families, and other pursuits simultaneously." Professor Zarian opened his silver eyes. I have consulted with the morale and collective. Our greatest minds have spent centuries perfecting mental discipline. Yet we observed an 8-year-old human managing multiple complex interests while displaying creativity and enthusiasm that our scholars never achieve. There's more, Quinzet said. His voice had taken on a tone that made everyone in the room uncomfortable. I accessed their global communication networks. At any given moment, humans are engaged in millions of different activities. They have volunteer organizations, charitable foundations, community groups, educational programs, artistic collaborations, and social gatherings happening simultaneously across their planet. The hologram showed a map of Earth covered in tiny lights. Each light represented a different human activity happening at that moment. The planet looked like it was covered in glowing stars. "How many lights are there?" Professor Yantul asked in a whisper. "Currently? Approximately 47 million distinct activities are taking place on Earth as we speak," Quinzet replied. "And this is considered a normal day." The room erupted in shocked voices from every species present. Dr. Kethfox stood up so quickly that her chair fell backward. "That's impossible," she declared. "No species can maintain that level of diverse activity without their civilization collapsing. Yet they also developed faster-than-light travel, artificial intelligence, and quantum computers," Quinzet pointed out. While pursuing millions of recreational activities, Professor Yantul's ancient mind was racing. What if we've been wrong about efficiency? What if scattered attention isn't a weakness but a strength we've never encountered? "Consider this," Professor Zarian said slowly. "Every other species in the galaxy specializes. Forethought compute, Zilani fight, Morallans meditate, Therinity study. We have built our entire civilizations around single purposes. And humans?" Dr. Kethfox asked, though her voice suggested she already knew the answer. "Humans do everything," Quinzet said. "They fight, they think, they create, they explore, they help others, they compete, they cooperate, they dream, they build, they destroy, they preserve, they change. All at the same time." The weight of this realization settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Professor Yantul activated his personal communicator. "Who are you calling?" Dr. Kethfox demanded. "The Galactic Council," Professor Yantul replied. "They need to know about this immediately." "Know about what exactly?" Professor Yantul paused, his finger hovering over the communication device. "That we may have invited the most dangerous species in the galaxy to join our academy. Dangerous." Dr. Kethfox laughed harshly. "The boy can barely solve basic equations. The boy is a backup quarterback for his school team while maintaining acceptable grades in our advanced courses," Professor Zarian corrected. "He's also helping his sister with scientific experiments, planning to participate in another sport next season, and managing social relationships with his peers. So imagine what happens when 8 billion humans decide to focus their scattered attention on a single goal," Professor Yantul said quietly. "What happens when they stop treating galactic-level capabilities as hobbies and start taking something seriously?" The question hung in the air like a threat. In the holographic display, Earth continued to sparkle with millions of lights, each one representing another human activity that defied everything the galaxy thought it knew about intelligent life. Dr. Kethfox sat back down heavily. "We need to contact the council immediately," agreed Professor Yantul said. "But first we need to decide what we're going to tell them." "The truth," Professor Zarian said, "that we've discovered a species that treats impossibility as entertainment." As the faculty continued their emergency meeting, Danny Carter slept peacefully in his dorm room, completely unaware that his simple honesty about weekend plans had just triggered a galactic crisis. In a few hours, he would wake up, struggle through quantum mechanics class, and call his friend Jake to discuss football strategy. He had no idea that the galaxy's most powerful leaders were about to have sleepless nights because of him. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within 12 hours of Professor Yantul's call. Representatives from the 4 major species gathered in the massive crystal dome that orbited the neutral world of Nexus Prime. Never before had a meeting been called with such urgency over a single student at an Academy Supreme. Calculator Vex Prim of the Vorthok Collective spoke first, his massive form connected to dozens of computational devices. We have analyzed all available data on human civilization. The findings are unprecedented. War leader Coravel of the Zelani Empire stood at attention, her purple armor gleaming under the dome's lights. With respect, Supreme Calculator 1. Species cannot threaten the established order of the galaxy. We have maintained peace through strength for over 1,000 years. Peace through specialization, corrected Mindkeeper Luxera of the Moralen Collective, her silver eyes reflecting the swirling nebula visible through the dome. Each species has found their role, their purpose, their area of excellence. Ancient Keeper Yulman of the Threnody spoke last, his tree-like form swaying gently. And for 10,000 years, this system has brought stability to our galaxy. Why should we concern ourselves with one primitive species? Supreme Calculator Vex Prim activated the central display. Earth appeared in the middle of the dome, rotating slowly, because this primitive species has accomplished something that none of our advanced civilizations ever achieved. The display zoomed in to show human cities, then individual humans engaged in countless activities. Children playing instruments while adults built houses, teenagers competing in sports while elderly humans painted pictures, scientists working in laboratories while artists created sculptures in the same buildings. They do everything, Vex Prim continued. While we perfected single abilities, they scattered their attention across infinite possibilities. And somehow, this chaos works. War leader Coravel stepped forward. Scattered attention is a military weakness. Any competent strategist knows that divided focus leads to defeat. Unless Mindkeeper Luxera said thoughtfully, divided focus actually creates capabilities we never considered. The display shifted to show human technological achievements. Rockets carrying humans to their moon, computers performing millions of calculations, medical devices saving lives, art that moved observers to tears. They developed all of this while playing games, Ancient Keeper Yulman observed, his voice filled with disbelief. While pursuing activities that serve no practical purpose? Supreme Calculator Vex Prime nodded grimly. Our analysis suggests that their recreational activities actually enhance their development rather than hindering it. Competition taught them innovation. Art taught them creativity. Sports taught them teamwork and quick thinking. Music and literature taught them to understand complex emotions and ideas. War leader Coravel crossed her arms, so they're well-rounded. It doesn't make them dangerous. Consider this scenario, Supreme Calculator Vex Prim said. What happens when 8 billion beings who treat galactic-level problem-solving as entertainment decide to focus on a single goal? The question echoed through the dome. The representatives fell silent as the implications sank in. Mindkeeper Luxera spoke slowly. Our military projections assume enemies will follow logical strategic patterns. Humans appear to think in ways that our models cannot predict. Their creativity alone could revolutionize warfare, War leader Coravel admitted. Reluctantly, any species that invents thousands of different games might invent combat strategies we've never imagined. Ancient Keeper Yulman accessed his vast memory banks. In all our recorded history, no species has successfully maintained the level of diverse activity that humans consider normal. Most civilizations collapse under the complexity. Others stagnate when they try to do too many things at once. But humans thrive on it, Supreme Calculator Vex Prime confirmed. The more activities they pursue, the more capable they become. The dome fell silent except for the soft humming of the space station's systems. Each representative was processing the same terrifying thought: if humans could accomplish so much while treating it as entertainment, what could they do if they ever became serious about galactic dominance? War leader Coravel was the first to voice what everyone was thinking. We need to make them our allies before they realize their own potential, agreed Mindkeeper Luxera said. A species this unpredictable could destabilize everything if they become hostile. Ancient Keeper Yulman nodded his massive head. Better to have them working with us than against us. Supreme Calculator Vex Prim began entering commands into his computational systems. I propose we offer Earth immediate membership in the Galactic Council, full membership, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. That's unprecedented, War Leader Coravel protested. No species has ever been offered full membership without proving themselves through centuries of cooperation. No species has ever demonstrated the capability to casually pursue activities that match our greatest achievements. Supreme Calculator Vexprim countered. Humans are not like other species. Normal rules do not apply. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, species would be invited to join the Galactic Council, based not on their military might, technological superiority, or ancient wisdom, but on their ability to do everything at once while having fun. Meanwhile, Danny Carter woke up in his dorm room, completely unaware that the most powerful beings in the galaxy had spent the night discussing his after-school plans. He brushed his teeth, grabbed his backpack, headed to breakfast in the Academy cafeteria. At his usual table, Zek9 Cora and the Moralin twins were waiting for him. But something was different. Instead of their usual mocking expressions, they looked at him with what might have been respect. "Good morning, Danny," Cora said, using his first name for the first time ever. Good morning," Danny replied, confused by the sudden change in attitude. "We have been thinking about your weekend plans," Lynn said carefully. "Yeah, about that," Danny said, sitting down with his breakfast. "I talked to Coach last night. He wants to try a new play where I fake a handoff to Jake, then throw a quick pass to Mike while Pete runs a crossing route. It's pretty complicated, but I think we can make it work." The aliens exchanged glances. A play involving multiple moving parts, split-second timing, and coordinated teamwork, all disguised as a simple game. "Sounds challenging," Lara said weakly. Danny shrugged. "Not really. It's just football. The hard part will be helping Kate with her volcano. She wants to make it bigger this time, maybe even add some LED lights to make it look more realistic." As Danny casually described his plans to help an 8-year-old engineer a more advanced volcanic simulation, aliens realized that the Galactic Council had made the right decision. 3 hours later, a formal message arrived at the Academy. Earth had been invited to join the Galactic Council as a founding member of a new category, recreational superpowers. Danny was eating lunch when Professor Yantul delivered the news. "Young Carter, your planet has just been offered full membership in the Galactic Council." Danny nearly choked on his sandwich. "What? Why?" Professor Yantul looked at the human student who had accidentally changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Simply by being honest about his weekend plans. "Because," the professor said, "your species has taught us that there are some things more dangerous than focused power. And apparently one of them is scattered attention combined with human determination." Danny stared at his professor completely bewildered. All he had done was mention football practice and helping his little sister with a science project. How could that possibly change anything? He had no idea that his simple honesty about human nature had just secured his species a place among the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. And he definitely didn't know that every alien leader was now desperately hoping that humans would continue to treat galaxy-shaking capabilities as nothing more than fun weekend activities. The greatest military minds in the galaxy had reached one unanimous conclusion: never again would they underestimate a species that could accidentally conquer the universe while trying to have a good time.